Heard, the asteroid is coming. You wake up to your phone buzzing. Not once, not twice, 47 times in the last 3 minutes. Your screen is flooded with notifications, emergency alerts, news headlines, missed calls from your family. Your hands are shaking as you read the first headline. NASA confirms asteroid will impact Earth in 147 days. This isn't a simulation. This isn't a movie. This is happening. Your first instinct is to panic. Your second instinct is to check if this is real. But deep down, you already know it is. The asteroid is called Apophis. It's the size of a mountain, and in less than 5 months, it will collide with our planet. But here's what nobody's telling you yet. The impact location isn't confirmed. It could hit the ocean. It could hit a city. It could hit your city. You have a choice to make right now, and it's not the choice you think. You could spend these 147 days in fear. You could prepare a bunker. You could move your family. You could do what millions of others are doing, panic buying, hoarding supplies, abandoning their lives. Or you could understand something that changes everything. The asteroid's trajectory was recalculated 12 hours ago. The new data is still being analyzed by world governments, but a leaked document from the European Space Agency suggests something remarkable. There's a possibility, a real possibility, that the asteroid might miss us entirely. The margin is thin. It's measured in kilometers, but it exists. So right now, at this exact moment, humanity is in a state of controlled uncertainty. We don't know if we're facing extinction or deliverance. And that uncertainty is where the real story begins. 3 months ago, Dr. Sarah Chen was working at NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office when the first detection came through. A massive object, unusual trajectory, heading toward Earth's orbital path. She ran the calculations herself. Then she ran them again. Then she called her supervisor. The initial estimate gave humanity 8 months before impact. That was bad enough. But as more data arrived, the timeline compressed. 7 months, 6 months, then 5. By the time the public announcement was made, the world had already started to fracture. Stock markets crashed within hours. Governments convened emergency sessions. Religious institutions saw record attendance. Some people quit their jobs. Others worked harder, as if productivity mattered anymore. In Tokyo, a man spent his entire life savings on a single night. In London, a woman planted a garden she'd never see bloom, just to have something to believe in. In Sao Paulo, strangers began helping strangers for the first time in years. The asteroid did something no politician, no pandemic, no war had managed to do. It made everyone equal. Because when you're facing the same existential threat, your bank account doesn't matter. Your social status doesn't matter. Your past mistakes don't matter. What matters is this: what do you do with the time you have left? But that's not the complete picture. Because while the world was descending into this strange mixture of chaos and unity, something else was happening in the shadows. Governments were mobilizing. NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, CNSA. Every space agency on Earth was working on a plan they weren't fully disclosing to the public. Project Artemis wasn't about evacuation. It was about intervention. The idea was audacious. Impossible, some said, but not impossible enough to stop trying. They would launch a kinetic impactor. A spacecraft traveling at 20 kilometers per second would collide with the asteroid, altering its trajectory just enough to miss Earth. The math was terrifying. A deviation of just 1 degree could mean the difference between catastrophe and survival. Too much force, and the asteroid fragments into thousands of smaller projectiles, some of which could still hit Earth. Too little force, and nothing changes. This wasn't science fiction. This was real, and it had to work on the first attempt. Because there was no second attempt. The spacecraft was already being built. Components were being manufactured in secret facilities across 3 continents. Launch date, 92 days from now. That gave them 55 days of margin. 55 days for the mission to launch, travel through space, and intercept the asteroid before impact. It was the tightest timeline in human history, and nobody knew if it would work. But you knew something else now. You knew that humanity wasn't waiting to die. You knew that somewhere in Florida, in Kazakhstan, in China, engineers were working around the clock to save your life. The question shifted. It was no longer, will we survive? The question became, what will we become if we do? Because if the mission succeeded, if we deflected that asteroid, we would have proven something fundamental about our species. We would have shown that when faced with extinction, we could transcend our divisions, we could cooperate, we could achieve the impossible. But if it failed, then these 147 days would be the last days of human civilization, not with a bang, but with a choice. The choice to face the end together. Days passed. The countdown continued. 60 days until impact. The spacecraft was 90% complete. Test launches had been successful. Every simulation showed a 5% margin for error. 5%. In engineering, that's both everything and nothing. The world was watching differently now. The initial panic had transformed into something else. A kind of acceptance mixed with desperate hope. In hospitals, terminal patients reported feeling oddly peaceful. In prisons, violence dropped by 60%. In classrooms, teachers reported that students were suddenly engaged, suddenly present, suddenly asking what mattered most. The asteroid was teaching humanity a lesson that centuries of philosophy couldn't. It was teaching us that time is finite. That meaning is something we create, not something we inherit. That connection is the only currency that survives. 45 days until impact. The spacecraft launched on a Tuesday morning. Millions watched the live feed. The rocket climbed through the atmosphere, leaving a trail of fire against the dawn sky. For the first time, humanity wasn't passive. We were acting. We were fighting back. The spacecraft entered space, separated from its launch vehicle, and began its journey toward the asteroid. The intercept window was narrow. The asteroid was traveling at 18 kilometers per second. The spacecraft was chasing it, gaining speed, calculating its approach to perfection. Every second mattered. Every millisecond mattered. 30 days until impact. The spacecraft was closing in. Telemetry showed it was on course. Mission Control reported nominal conditions. Everything was proceeding according to plan. But space doesn't care about plans. A solar flare created unexpected radiation. It damaged the spacecraft's guidance system. For 8 minutes, Mission Control lost signal. 8 minutes where nobody knew if the mission was still alive. When the signal returned, the spacecraft had compensated automatically. Its artificial intelligence had recalculated the approach. It was still on course. Barely. The margin for error had just decreased from 5% to 2%. 20 days until impact. The spacecraft was visible now. Not to the naked eye, but to the asteroid's radar. They were in the same region of space. The final approach was beginning. Millions of people stopped working, stopped sleeping, just watched the numbers counting down. 10 days until impact. The spacecraft was close enough that its instruments could see the asteroid in detail. It was massive, rocky, ancient. This object had been traveling through space for billions of years, indifferent to the life that had evolved on a small blue planet. Now, for the first time in its existence, something was going to change its course. 5 days until impact. The spacecraft began its final deceleration. It had to slow down to match the asteroid's speed. If it hit too fast, the impact wouldn't be precise enough. If it hit too slow, it wouldn't have enough force. The calculation had to be perfect. 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day. The spacecraft was now traveling alongside the asteroid. They were moving together through the void, at the same speed, on a collision course. Mission Control held its breath. The final burn sequence initiated. The spacecraft's thrusters fired. It began to accelerate toward the asteroid's surface. This was it. The moment everything changed. The impact happened at 1432 UTC. The spacecraft collided with the asteroid at 22 kilometers per second. The kinetic energy was equivalent to detonating 10 million tons of TNT. The asteroid's trajectory shifted by 1.3 degrees. It was enough. The calculations were correct. The asteroid would miss Earth. It would pass through our orbital space, but it would not hit us. Humanity had done it. We had looked extinction in the eye and refused to accept it. For the first time in our history, we had changed the course of a celestial object. We had altered the cosmos itself. The celebrations lasted for days. They were unlike anything the world had ever seen. Strangers embraced in the streets. Enemies declared peace. People looked at each other differently, knowing what they had just survived together. But as the initial euphoria faded, something unexpected happened. The world didn't return to normal, because we had learned something in those 147 days that couldn't be unlearned. We had learned that when we face a common threat, we're capable of extraordinary things. We had learned that cooperation isn't naive. It's powerful. We had learned that our differences matter far less than our shared humanity. The asteroid had been the teacher, and the lesson was written in the sky. The question now wasn't about survival. It was about whether we would remember this feeling, whether we would carry this unity forward, whether we would treat every day as the gift it actually is. Because the asteroid is coming. It's always coming. Not in the form of a space rock, but in the form of mortality, in the form of time running out, in the form of the finite nature of our existence. And now you know what to do with that knowledge. You wake up, you realize what matters, and you choose to live differently.